general assumption when people wear their faith on their sleeve and they create a product that people who may not go to church as often or may not know the Lord as well as you know the Lord will assume that those products are not for them. And you made it perfectly clear out the gate that this was for anyone and everyone. When you, as you traverse through Hollywood, why did you, the other thing you also said was that this was not a self-help book.
Not at all.
Expand on that for me.
I call it a get yours book because I too have fallen victim to many a self-help book that I have purchased with the hope and anticipation of doing something with them, and they just become coffee table books to do this. And I'm like, no, I'm not going out like that because it's not this. It really is if you apply it, it will work kind of book. Like it's like get yours because like I didn't have to write it. I wrote it because I understand where people who are in transition are. And I'm like, yo, this is how my life worked. I believe this can help you in order to like face whatever transition. And it doesn't have to be like going into entertainment. It could just be like you trying to start your own business or whatnot. But going back to what you said in terms about like faith, I was very purposeful. And like when God told me to write the book, I was like, fam, you act like I ain't got things to do. Not a thing not a thing I was like, I gotta do this. He was like, yeah, I didn't bless you just for you to just enjoy the blessing. Like go back and get your people. And so it was like really a mission to be like, well, I'm not so far removed from the struggle that I can't talk about it. I'm like, the struggle was season 1 and half 2. You know what I mean? Like it was there. And so for me, it was just like, yo, I'm kind of going into a promised land or like traversing into a new level of my life. But while I'm going, let me bring you up in here because like it ain't no fun if the homies can't get none. And I don't mean that in the way Nate Dowd did. It's very different context.
Your family and we are not the same, but we are one and the same as comedians in the sense of I am a child of 2 educators. My father mastered degreed up, my mama mastered degreed up. My mama 30 years in higher education. And I had to walk after graduating from FAMU, I had to walk into my mama's office and go, hey, I think I'm gonna just drive around and tell jokes to strangers.
So when did she take you out the will?
Well, immediately on the spot. Now, but the difference being, and this is where we differ, my mom was from Mississippi.
Okay.
So there was a little different energy between me and my mama than say, get to the Nigerian stuff. I'm just talking about the Nigerian stuff. Because
y'all in here? Yeah. My people, we did for this place. Okay.
Talk a little bit about the expectations as a first gen. And the moment when you decided to tell your parents, because I know you kind of ducked and dodged them a little bit.
I got a master's degree to stall from going to med school because the only thing Nigerians love more than education is more education.
Hang on. You to not tell your mama you want to do comedy,
I just got another degree.
More school.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, we can do this. I worked at GW, had them pay for my grad program because I was working there full time. Because you got to hustle the system. I already owed Sally Mae for undergrad. I wasn't going to go out like that. Then after I graduated, I worked in war-torn Liberia because they had just finished a job. Again, still stalling. And then 2008, yeah, you're hearing correctly. I was a punk. 2008 came and it was a recession. Well, when I got back from Liberia, it was 2009. And I was like, fam, there's a lot of folks with dual degrees without jobs right now. So let me go to New York and try this comedy thing. It's like, if it don't work out, I'll just be like everybody else.
You went to Liberia rather than just tell your mama the truth.
Yeah.
I would rather choose Liberia.
I chose violence. Literally.
So when your family in the book, and it's a very, very touching part of the book where you talk about
when
you told them.
And I remember it.
Your words are way better than mine, but just just the crying.
I remember it vividly because, okay, so God had told me to do comedy in 2006. And then I was like, what are you talking about? And then I did it, and then I was successful at it. So from 2006 to like 2008, my parents were just like, oh, it's a hobby. It's going to be good for her to get into medical school with hobbies. And so every time I would go, they'd be like, oh, hey, she's practicing her hobby. Meanwhile, I'm like, how do I get paid for this? I'm like trying to figure out, like, is this a career? Is this a life? So I just let them believe it was a hobby. And so then by 2009, when I get back and they're like, okay, now are you taking the MCATs? And I was like, actually, my bus leaves in like 2 hours. I'm going to New York. And at that point, my mom cried because I'm the youngest of four. I'm the last Black hope. You know, like if there ever was going to be a doctor, it was me. And I'm basically letting her know, like, nah. And so she starts crying. She takes it so personal. I mean, like literally, like I only left Nigeria for you people and your education, and look at what you're doing. And so she basically was like, my mom is also very extreme. I don't know if you all saw the special. You know, her favorite thing to say to me and my siblings growing up, it is my one dying wish. Still alive, by the way. She is still fine, not a health scare. But like it was that thing, like it is my one dying wish to see you as a doctor. My mom worked at Howard University Hospital, so she would see all the white coats, all the new like recruits, if you will. And I promise you, I would get calls while she's in the elevator, which I'm like, what kind of cell phone service did you have? And it was just like first year med students, like, hi, Yvonne, I'm here with your mom. And I can just hear the like, and I can hear my mom in the like background, like, it's not too late. You know, and they're like, it's not too late. I'm like, goodbye. I don't know. And so that was literally what that was why I went to Liberia. Like all those things were just like, I can't do this to this woman. Like she literally gave up everything for me. I'm like, I gotta self-sabotage myself. I didn't tell myself those words, but basically that's what I was doing. And finally, a cousin sat me in the car and she was just like, fam, unless you're telling your mother you're going to be a doctor or marrying a doctor tomorrow, like you might as well rip the Band-Aid off. Like nothing you do is going to be acceptable. So the sooner you let them know, the better. And I'll never forget, my dad was like in the kitchen, like making like eggs. So he had a hot pan very near his hand.
What time of day is this?
And this is the morning because the bus was at noon. It was the Bolt bus.
Ooh.
From Greenbelt to
top notch.
Yo, yeah,
$20.
And I just remember being like, yo, that pan is gonna go on my forehead. Like if this goes left. And I was nervous, but I was just like, at the end of the day, I have literally done everything they wanted me to do. I'm 25 at this point. Everything they wanted me to do at this point. If the one thing I decided to do for myself is the reason why, like, we not gonna be cool, they got to take that with Jesus because he's the one who's told me to do it. And we were not cool for 7 years. So just to be, you know, it cost something. It cost something to live the life that I live now. I'm grateful that I did it because now, you know, for me and my immediate circle, I believe I've changed the culture because now other Nigerian parents are calling me like, my daughter says she wants to do the acts. So fuck to her. I don't know. I'm like, also not how this works. Like, y'all stop this train of telephone. But
you call Issa Rae and have her meet my daughter? It went on the TV.
Well, you know the moment that changed things a little bit in my mom's eye. I was already in LA. Lupita won the Oscar, and my mom calls and is like, "Your friend has won the Oscar." Don't know. Lupita from Nyong'o, and I was like, "That's not how this works." But for her, she's like, another African is successful. Okay, cool. Maybe you too.
Seeing other people in that space gave her a degree of comfort.
And I'm hoping that that's what people see when they see Yvonne Orji. Like, you know.
Oh, they do.
I hope. I mean,
they see that. They see that now. So my mother and I, we didn't speak for a year when I first started doing stand-up. Like we called each other once a month to confirm the other was alive, and that was it. And what turned the corner for me was doing open mics in Birmingham and her students seeing me and then going back to class on Monday morning. Dr. Wood, I thought. So that was what kind of broke the ice between my mother and I. Take me to year 7, and I'm only asking these moments between you and the parents because I think that regardless of what path any of us are on, career-wise, or what our goals are, or what truth we want to be viewed in by the people that we hold important, I think that these mile markers are the same for all of us. So at year 7, what is that? When did the ice finally start to melt just a little bit where you felt before you titled the HBO special, Mama, I Made It? Before we got to that, give me what was that like?
You know, it was a process of things, and I think I had to set my expectation. There was a family friend that had come from Nigeria that kind of set me straight because I was so angry. You know, I'm like mad. Like I'm like, y'all don't think this is hard for me? Like, you know, just like, did you think I wanted to do this? Like, I just didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I didn't like blood, so I wasn't gonna be a doctor, but I just didn't know what the alternative was. And like this comedy being like scared the crap out of me, not being on stage per se, but like the idea that it could go left quickly. I was bullied as a kid, so the idea of rejection was still like so vulnerable, and I was like, I don't want it. And so there were different moments. So like I released the first gen trailer in like 2014, 15. People, it was like going a little viral. Other people were like, this is amazing. My mom was like, you're talking about me. I'm like, no, you're missing the point, you know. And then I had like other people's kids had to tell my mom to the same thing, like, yo, we just saw this trailer from Yvonne. And, yes, I believe it's me. She's talking about it. So it's like change a little bit. And then, but like so my cousin that came from Nigeria basically was like, they're not mad at you just to be mad at you. You've handicapped them from doing the one thing that they're supposed to be able to do, which is to be parents. So if you tell them you want to be an engineer, they're like, phenomenal. We can call Mrs. So-and-so's son. They got books. They can help you with, you know, the test. You can go to, you know, MIT. You told them you want to be a comedian. They're like, we have nobody in the pipeline to assist you. So if you fail, we fail. So the only logical thing for them to do is abort mission, like divert the course so that we can get back to something that makes sense. In my mind, I'm like, y'all gave up everything and suffered for me to be here in land of opportunity. Like, why would you limit me then to only the things you know? So we were like just attacking it from two different places. So when Chris Rock calls 2000, well, Insecure I booked, and so that was like a thing, but I have a funny story about that. But when Chris Rock called, I'm like, I'm going on tour with Chris Rock. It was a big, huge moment. And I, again, having to temper your expectations, even when you're making it, my mom didn't know who Chris Rock was. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to Madison Square Garden. I'm going to Barclays Center. This is huge. And my mom was like, okay, that's okay.
Who does your mama watch on TV?
Listen, she didn't. She was a nurse for 27 years. She got time for TV. So my cousin called her and was like, told her it was a big deal. So here's my mom calling me back. She's like, you're going on tour with Christopher Rock, who is a comedian, actor, right? I was like, are you reading his Wikipedia page? And she was, but like, it was just like, it became a big deal to her then, but I'll never forget, like I booked Insecure. It was the season 1 premiere, October 2016, like to the date. My roommate at the time had just booked a show on Fox called Pitch.
Oh, the baseball show.
Yes, about the baseball. So my mom is in my like getting ready for my premiere, watching Pitch, comes to me and she's like, don't you think it would be better for this your Insecure show to be on Fox 5? And I was like, I'm sorry? Yes, because Cole is advertising for Jenny Baker. Jenny Baker was like the character's name. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, Mom, we don't have commercials on HBO. It's premium cable. Well, I don't know. I'm just saying it would be better because Cole is advertising. Who flew you here? Was it Cole? And it's just those moments that you're just like, it don't even matter what you do. Like, just do what you do for you, and then they'll figure it out. So I think really the moment the moment that it probably started making sense to them is when my success affected the family. Because before, to a certain extent, your success only really affects you. But, for my mom's 7-year birthday, I took the whole family to Dubai. My mom was like, this girl has made it. She's doing something with her life. I think you should continue. Because I was like, Dubai did it? Okay.
Before the Insecure booking, before the Insecure audition, Los Angeles is a city that, if I can say this, anybody from the West Coast first, let me.
You're in safe company, it's fine.
All right, let me whisper it real quick because I don't want to make her mad.
But unless she's a Crip, then I don't know. It's not going to end well for you.
It is, if you curate it properly, you can have some of the best friendships to help support you through some of the most soul-crushing moments that you will experience alone 9 times out of 10. And when you are doing something like this and your family doesn't even approve of you being there, the support system is it's very small. So when you think about the pressures of not telling your parents versus the pressures of continuing after gut punch after gut punch after gut punch, without diving too much into what it was in the book, but it's an experience that I think it's an emotion everybody can relate to. Give me October 22nd, 2014.
Bam.
As I call it as comedians, I say every entertainer, you got to have a cry in the car moment.
Yeah.
Where all despair, all hope, the bottom falls out.
For sure.
And you have to get to the other side of that.
Yeah, I was crying on the street. I was on Sunset Boulevard. Like I had just, I was on the brink of a depression because it was just like, yo, fam, like I've done everything. Like it was also kind of self-righteous too. It's like, yo, I'm your favorite. Like it would be in your best interest to come through to me. and I just thought like I was doing everything. God had given me the idea for First Gen maybe around 2012, but I'm like, I'm not a writer. And I was already writing on another show. When the money's come in, you're like, I don't need to do my own thing. These checks are steady. And, one day the show ends and you're like, okay, cool. What we got next? And they're like, we have other things next. And you're like, oh, I'm back to babysitting. It's a very humbling, yes, with 2 degrees. I was like, so I can watch your kids. The younger they are, the better. Because when they start talking back, I'm like, who's Rex Ellison? Gremlin. And so I was at the place where it didn't make sense anymore to get up. I was just like, all right, for what? Like it was like hope was slowly fading. And I was kind of reconciling in my mind, like, all right, well, just apologize and just tell them you made a mistake. You thought you heard God and just go home. At least, you're gonna eat, you're gonna work for the government. You live in Maryland, DC. They can set you up and that's gonna be your life. But it's like there was that realization, like this is an option. And then there was a thing of like, come on though, like, but I just gave it 7 years. Like this can't, if I gotta throw in the towel, I'll do it. But like, come on, like, is this it? And I'll never forget. So I was like, in the book, I talk about moving from a maybe. Like sometimes you just have to, like, you don't have a lot left. You just got a morsel of a maybe. And I'm sure a lot of people going through this pandemic, like y'all, like either people not having jobs or graduating and being like, yo, what is there to do? And for me, it was like, all right, okay, so you're gonna get up today, praise and worship music. Okay, brush your teeth. That's the first step. And then, like read something. All right, cool. Next day, okay, brush your teeth, shower. Go outside, brush your teeth, shower, put on makeup. Like, so it was just really like step by step of just getting myself back out. Then October 22nd, I go to this thing. It's like NBC Shortcuts Film Festival. They have it here in New York and in LA. I think they call it something different now. And basically it's where young people who are not signed or not well known create a piece of material that is then shown to executives and they get a holding deal. And I'll never forget, I went in there and you're seeing young people who have done stuff and it's so inspiring, but then you're just also recognizing like, I ain't doing nothing. It's like they're doing stuff that like I'm not doing anything. And I held up my strength enough to walk out the door. But the minute my feet hit the concrete, like my knees gave way. Like you know when you see on TV, like people just like collapse. Like that's fake. No, it's quite real. And I just remember just like I had my boxing gloves on and God was gonna get it. Like he, come on, fam, like let's go. Like I don't care, you and Mary. You know, like everybody can get it. And it was in that moment, and my friend Hadi was with me, who like he was the person who picked me up from the airport when I landed, like April 2012, and we walked 3 miles of me just crying, and like you know that moment when you think you're good, and God, the Holy Spirit was saying, "What's in your hand?" And then I started yelling. And like Hadi is agnostic, so he's like, "Who are you talking to?" I'm like, "Jesus, hold on." And the Holy Spirit said, "What's in your hand?" And I got so frustrated because I was like, "Yo, fam, I'm here giving you the business. I'm tired. I got nothing. And you have the audacity to ask me a question that doesn't make sense to me in the moment." And it wasn't until the next night when I slept, I woke up, I grabbed my Bible because, you know, I can't be mad at him for too long. I was like, because I go through life like one of us is wrong. Oftentimes it's me, but you know, I just still like to give the option that it could be him. And so I read, "I will yet trust you because my times were in your hand." And I recall like in that moment, really what was bothering me was this timetable that I had put myself on and that culture and society had put me on. I booked Insecure when I'm 31. As a Nigerian, you're supposed to be married by 27 with 5 kids, you know, like by 27 and a half. So I was like already late, and I'm like, okay. And I wasn't feeding into the pressure if like work was going well. Like it's one thing to be like, I'm not gonna, you know, succumb to cultural norms. I'm a working woman, but it's like, I'm not succumbing and I am poor. Like it's I could really use a husband right now. You know what I mean? Like it's like do you have a house of meals? Like, help me. And so that was really what my issue was. So when I read, "I would yet trust you, my times are in your hands," it was really me surrendering whatever my timetable was to what God had. Because at the time that I'm crying on Sunset Boulevard, Issa's only then making the deal for Insecure, still has to develop it. So the thing that I needed to be ready was still getting ready. And so often we're like, "I'm ready now, God." And God's like, "Cool, you ready, but like the thing I have for you is still baking." So it's not that it's not going to work out; it's just not right now.
You said in the book, and because to come off of that moment, I often feel like, and this is probably another thing that I think only comedians, well, as far as I know, only know this feeling as a comedian and an actor, where I would rather not get it than get close when it comes to an opportunity or an audition, or yeah, you almost got the thing, but you didn't.
Yeah.
Like when I did.
Oh, that hurts. I know that feeling very well.
I did Last Comic Stand and came in 3rd place on the finale, had to stand in another dude's confetti. And that.
You still mad about this?
I'm still mad.
You were successful.
It's his confetti. Why we got to stay out on the stage while his confetti falling? It's his moment. But that feeling.
But where's he now? Where's he now? Exactly. We know your name.
Yes.
You got bamboozled about Jesus too.
Yes, I did. So in the book you said, and I put this in because I wanted to get this right. You said, quote, "It's a pretty weird feeling to be the strong one, the one who makes everyone laugh, the one who brings encouragement in the group chats, only to find yourself in need of a laugh when nothing in the world seems funny." Mm-hmm. How did you get through those moments, and how did you curate your support system? Because I think that that's a very, very important part of persevering through these mile markers. Yeah. And how did you curate your friends? How did you, I'm sure there's people that you had to remove, or that Jesus removed.
Somebody removed them. They remove themselves sometimes.
How do you build your network, your support network, especially when times were low, and even now? Mm-hmm. Because I believe that same support network helps us to keep perspective.
Yeah, I think part of what I was describing in that paragraph too is just it's the pressure we put on ourselves to be perfect as well. And one thing that the pandemic has helped me do in therapy is undoing perfection. Like my goal this year was to be less Nigerian. I know, blasphemy. I'm so sorry, but I need to give it up because God also basically told me like the things that you use as a support blanket to get you to success will crumble you if you try to do that in the next phase of your life. And like Nigerians, we know hustle and grind. Like I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do, like we know that. And God is teaching me in this season like ease and flow. Like it's like, can I still get success by doing less? Like is that like that's the privilege that white people get. Can I also do that? Like we're taught like we have to do everything. We have to work hard. And not that white people don't work hard. I'm not saying that, but it's just like you can easily get into the mode of like hustle and grind all day, every day. And it's like, okay, well, when are you going to see if your worth is not connected to your work, but also still get the blessing? It's just, and I was like, I don't trust it. Like I literally was like, God, I don't know, I don't trust it. And it was a hard lesson. And I remember a therapy session where my therapist was like, I told her, I was like, I just feel lazy. I just feel lazy. Like I feel like at least if I'm working towards something, I know that if I get it, it's on my merit. And if I don't, and she was like, are you lazy or is it that your body is finally at rest from a decade of work? I was like, can you just call my mama and tell her like that's the definition of rest, And so when I wrote that, like the misconception is that we have to be the strong one all the time. We have to be the one. Like no, I have to be human, so I can be vulnerable and be like, yo, fam, I ain't got it today. Like, I hope you have it for me. But, growing up culturally, it is this never let them see you sweat thing. It's like the whole house could be burning down. It's like, it's okay. I just have something on the stove. And it's like, I think your house is crumbling. And so that's where that was coming from. It was like, I had this need to people please. I had this need to present as perfect. I had this need to like be good because like, that's what a good Christian is. And it was like, no, good Christians, they have grace. They have favor. Like God will just sometimes throw stuff on you. I remember when I met you, he was like, you still are more popular than me.
I don't know about that now.
Yes, you are. But like in the comedy world, like you were and are still very respected. People just found that I do comedy. And you gave me a piece of advice as a young comic that still stuck with me that like helped pave the way. So it's like, man, if I only met Roy for that one moment, for that one thing, it was like, okay, that let me know, one, I'm on the right track, and two, keep going. And so it was those moments that allowed me to kind of shed, like, just be you. I'll never forget when a comic was like, you don't curse. Like, it's not gonna work out for you. Like, I mean, if you just drop some F-bombs, that joke would be mad funny if you just like said this and said that. And I was like, okay. Then I opened for Chris, same comment. Because a win for one is a win for all. No, it's not. This is my win. But I appreciate you. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. And it was just that thing of like, I had to do it. I had to learn hard lessons, but I also had to do things my way and just trust that they would work out. And I think I write in the book the first time I did my first hour. And my agent, Heidi from UTA, I remember I was shooting night school in Atlanta, and I was just like, oh, I'm in a new city. Hey, can you just put me up and see if I can get like a feature? I'm thinking, let me do it like a hot 20 in a new city, see if I'm popping.
No.
She calls back and it's like, all right, well, good news. I got you your first headliner. I was like, not what I asked you to do, Heidi. And I'm deathly afraid. I'm just like, what do you mean? And she was like, well, I mean, let's just see. And I was like, you in this let's just see life? Because I'm gonna be seeing me on stage getting booed. And
she told you to do the do.
She was just like, hey, listen, just do it, and like we'll see where you are. Like if it works out, you know, like where you are, and then we can just adjust from there. I was like, yeah, adjust from there. And Nigerians don't do this, you know, like we are like, no, if we're whatever we do the first time, we must. They carry last. It's like sometimes we carry second, you know. And I just did not want to be. I didn't want to get booed. Like no one wants to fail, right? And so I remember like, you know what? Okay, boom. We're not gonna sell no tickets. We're not gonna sell no tickets. They're gonna have to cancel the show. First show gets sold out. I'm like, this.
Okay. You know how black Atlanta is?
And that Atlanta, I was like, that was where all the insecure fans are. I was like, yeah. Okay, y'all like Molly now. Okay, cool. And so she calls and she's like, okay, first show got sold out. You want to add a second? I said, listen here, lady. Okay. I don't know if this is trust or blind belief, but stop it. Okay. You're messing up my life. So show gets sold out. I'm like, nah, I gotta do it. Now I gotta show up. I'm panicking. I don't have an hour. I have at best, if I stretch it out, 30 minutes in my mind. So Little Rel's in Atlanta shooting. I'm like, Rel, boom, come do a spot. I'm like patting the show. It was like an opener, a guest, a feature, Rel. I'm like, all y'all can do time, right? So Rel was like, how much time you want to do? I was like, just have fun. Just have fun. It's like maybe 40 minutes into the show, and he's like, all right, fam, like, yeah, Yvonne, they ready for you. I'm like, how ready is ready? Like, and so the host goes, you want me to give you the light at 50 minutes? I said, oh, you're sweet. I won't need it. Like in my mind, I was like, we almost out of time. They're gonna kick us out. I'm gonna do again 25 minutes.
You can't go to Liberia.
Right. So I'm on the stage and it's Atlanta. So I come out to like Nuck If You Buck. And already it's like, oh, it's a party. And so I just start doing crowd work. And I forget. It's like one thing, like once the mic in my hand, I forgot everything that was weighing me down. And then we just had fun. I'm riffing. And I finally am like, I should get on the stage now. So I feel like I've done a good solid 30. I was like, y'all had a show. Bro was here. Give it up for Rel. Like I get off the stage and dude was like, dang, you did an hour and 5 minutes. I said, live. And he showed me the clock. And I was like, wait. My mind was so blown. But that moment of doing that is what helped us then start having the kind of conversation of, you gotta, like, let's try and sell your first hour. But if I don't do that, Mama I Made It doesn't come out last year. Like it probably gets delayed. But it was that thing of like, and she called me when she read that part in the book. She was like, I'm so sorry. I had no idea that's what I was doing. She's like, I always pride myself on pushing my my clients, and I won't stop. I was like, so this is not an apology. Like she was like, I won't stop, but you know, I recognize now from your words that I'm not the one that has to take the heat if it doesn't work out. So I was kind of being callous. But again, I won't stop. But I appreciate you bringing it to my attention. She's great. She's still my agent. She's still my agent.
We're going to get ready to open up for questions in a second here. I have one last thing, but I know you said you had an insecure thing that you wanted to backtrack to as well, just about booking that and how that came about. And I kind of want to talk about how First Gen finally got sold. And just the journey of that.
Yeah.
Yes, it got sold. You sold a show. But I'm going to read the name of one of your chapters, and you can expand on that as much as you like. I'm
nervous now. Which name?
You named the chapters, don't you? But I want you to expand on this statement because there's a lot of her chapters that, like, you just read the name of the chapter, and you're just like, yes, finger snap. The first one, don't put a period where God put a comma. Mm-hmm. See? Yeah, told you.
All the death poetry slam.
And this is the one that I just want you to kind of just, give me a little bit of how you came to this realization within your journey. You have a chapter named, and I quote, "Fear is food poisoning, but regret is herpes."
Yeah, that's right. I said it. Okay, I'll explain.
Explain it, because you're right. You're absolutely right. Like the moment when I read, I was like, well, that's not. Oh, yes.
I meant it to have a visceral reaction, right? And not for like shock value, but like fear. From it's an analogy, right? Fear is to food poisoning as regret is to herpes. So food poisoning sucks. You don't like it. You got to go to the bathroom. You got to throw it up. It may come out either end. You're sweating. You're just like, it's just like you just want to get it out of your system so you can go back to being the you that you know you can be, right? Couple days, you're out and about, but you push through. That's what fear is. Fear is just like false evidence appearing real. It's like it sucks in the moment. You know you have to get the speech. You know you have to like take the test. You know you have to do whatever it is, and it's crippling. But once you get past that, you do the thing and you realize, oh, I'm so glad I did it. Whew, I'm back to being the me that I'm supposed to be. Regret, on the other hand, I say is a whole nother hoe. Because it's the fear that you allow to stop you and take root. And so much like herpes, it doesn't leave you. That's just scientifically.
That's true.
Like herpes doesn't leave you.
It comes back from time to time, and you think about it, and you be like,
so a flare up.
I'm talking about my regrets.
Me too.
Okay, just making sure.
So this is being recorded. Don't put all your business out there. A flare up looks like you seeing somebody else living in your dream, driving your car, married to your man, working in your job. It's just like, yes, you suppress, your life can still go on. People hurt, 50% of the world got herpes? Like, clearly, 1 in 2 people, don't look to your neighbor, have it. But they're fine. Your life is going on. It's not causing any major, like, whatever. You're fine. You can still make it. But every once in a while, you remember, like, dang, if I only had just, if I would have just, and it's like, that's what I want people to do less of. Because that regret, yes, again, you can suppress it. One day you're going to look up and like, ain't that? She's not even as funny as me. She's not even as talented as me. He's not even as handsome as me. You know, like, whatever it is. And it's just like, yeah, but it don't matter. He just did the thing that you stopped doing. And sometimes that's all that matters. I write in the book that like 95% of life is just showing up. The other 5 is showing up prepared. I used to live in New York and I was poor and I wanted to just see plays on Broadway. And I would just show up and be like, somebody gonna have a friend that stands them up. And I'm gonna be the friend that sits next to them. And short, like, oh my gosh, all the time. It's like, do you guys have student tickets? I still have my G World card. I'm a student. I was like, I'm a student of the arts. And they would sell me student tickets because they were like, all right, well, show's about to start. You got $20? I was like, I got $20. I don't have 150. And it was just showing up. And so that's why that title is there. It's like, I want people to see the analogy of like, yo, yes, fear sucks. Nobody likes having it, but like, do the thing and you get on the other side of it. Like, I look at all the moments in my life that were fearful. I'm like, whew, imagine when I wanted to stop. I'm so glad I didn't stop because I would have moved back to Lower Maryland and been working for the government and would get flare-ups of regret.
Indeed. As we get ready for questions, how we're doing it, people are going to come down to the microphone.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
Please come, and even if they can hear you from the stage, the people who are at home watching on Zoom can't, so please talk into the mic.
Hi, people watching on Zoom. How y'all doing?
And as people make their way to the mic, we already know what's happening with Insecure, and we're going to enjoy watching that journey from now.
Did y'all like the first episode? How many of y'all had beef with Molly last season? Okay, so show yourselves.
Right,
show yourselves. Y'all hiding behind Twitter. Show yourselves.
If you have a question, come on up to the microphone, but let's talk about on the other side of Insecure.
Yeah.
First gen, it's sold. Give us that.
Yeah, so that it was a 12-month course that changed my life, right? So Breakdown Sunset Boulevard, October 22nd, 2014. November, I finished the script for First Gen. And I'm like, I gotta shoot a trailer because this is before Black Panther, before Bob Hart's Abishola. They weren't like shows about African families on TV. And I was like, they're not gonna buy this. They need to see this. So December, I'm like, okay, I decide I'm gonna shoot a teaser trailer. Teaser trailers cost money. I don't have it. I get a production company that this woman, Elaine, is like, I want to champion this and make it my baby. I'm like, okay, Elaine, how much? $10,000. Elaine, your baby's expensive. Okay. She's like, I can do it for you for $7,000. I was like, cool, still don't have it, but we'll figure it out. And so that's December. We start fundraising. We get to February and we're supposed to shoot February 14th. I still don't have money. And so she's just like, hey, listen, if you can get 5,000, we can get the production done. 2,000 is for editing. Just get me 5,000. The night before our deposit is due, a friend of mine is on Facebook in Nigeria. And he's like, yo, what's this first gen thing you keep talking about? And I was like, man, and Holy Spirit says, ask for everything you need. Don't hold back. So he's asking me all these questions. Boom, boom, boom. I was like, is he the FBI? Like, what's going on? And so he's like, well, so what you need? I was like, well, I think we needed 4 for everything, for the whole 7,000. I was like, yeah, we need 4. He was like, all right, cool, I got you for 3. And I was like, did this man just keep me on the phone for $300? I will stab him in his sleep. And something in the back of my mind was just like, in case it's more, just tell him, because I think we were doing like, I don't know what it was, but it was just like the thing that you was like, hey, make it a gift so they don't take some of the money.
PayPal.
Yeah, they were PayPal. I was like, make it a gift. And the next day, I got an alert that $3,000 got wired from Nigeria to America, and it wasn't a scam. It wasn't a scam. He got his own money. So that's how. So we got the funds. We shot February 22nd. Released the trailer in April. Decide we need like a name to. Like kind of, because this was like pre-Insecure. Nobody knew who Yvonne Orji was. This is the last thing I was going to do before I go back to Lower Maryland. And so when we're now in April, I'm like, hey, it would be great if like one of these Nigerians who are popping off would like sanction us. We cold called David Oyelowo's manager. He's like, hold on, he might be interested. I'm like, is that how this works? David apparently had seen the trailer because it went viral. And he's in London. He was like, I get this because I'm a first generationer and my kids are not first generation. I would love something for them to watch. And I'm like, phenomenal. So he's like, I don't know the TV space. Let me show it to my mom. And I'm like, okay, great. See if your mama like it. He comes back and he was like, my mom loves it. I was like, that's phenomenal. What that got to do with us? And he was like, by my mom, I mean Oprah Winfrey. I was like, that's what you call her? Oh. I didn't know. He was just out here flexing. Cool. And so we go to pitch at OWN June of 2015. I start auditioning for Insecure July of 2015. I book Insecure August of 2015. We don't sell first gen until February of 2001. 2021. So it was a 5-year journey to get this thing sold.
And it is sold, and we cannot wait to see that. And you let me know if you need somebody who kind of sort of looks like Martin Luther King in the cast, and I will happily come audition.
Now you gave me a vision that I can't see.
I know we had a question here. Yeah, to the microphone.
Out how to move from 2 genres, a solo act and into what do you call it? With other people. Ensemble. And solo. How does that feel?
You mean like solo in terms of like stand up?
Yeah.
Oh, and checks. Like HBO checks. That's you learn quickly how to do what needs to be done.
Yeah, because it's interesting as a stand up, it's just you. So you get to dictate how the scene plays out.
Yes.
What's that transition when you're on set and you go, oh, we got to take turns?
Yeah, I think it is the I'm not a greedy person. Like I'm not like I'm almost even touring with Rock and you go backstage and comics do this thing of like, all right, we got to one up each other. I'm like, no, he's the funniest person in this room. I'm gonna let him have it. And if I have something, I'm gonna double that to the right place and then like pop in and then easily pop out. Like I'm not trying to compete. And I think that has helped me in terms of being gracious. Like I knew like this is easy. Like she Beyonce. Like this your group. And I'm there to fulfill my job in terms of supporting you. And I think I never lost sight of that. And so when it came down to like just doing what you got to do, and also everyone played their position. For me, Molly wasn't the comic relief, which was very different for me. They actually had to bring me down. Like they were like, hey, she's nuanced. So Kelly's character got to be kind of the stand-up. Like she's a little bit more broad.
Rockwell is 100%.
Yes. Yeah. And so for me, it was kind of like, there were parts I'm like, oh man, I wanted the funny line, but I'm like, I already know that I can do the funny line because I do that on stage. This is actually a new muscle that I feel like if I perfect this, it'll actually help me in the long run. And so I leaned into like doing the hard thing, which is tell a joke with a head nod or an eye raise or like, you good? Mm-hmm, that's what I thought. And just like staying in that pocket. And I think that's actually helped me become a better performer.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yes. And also the checks.
Hey, Yvonne, Rita Brent. Question, how do you deal with imposter syndrome? So you do the work to get in the room and you get in the room and you underperform or you self-sabotage with self-doubt. How do you deal with it?
So for me, great question. Are you Rita the comedian, Rita?
That's Rita Brent.
Hey, I was like, are you Rita the comedian,
Rita? Rita Brent.
Yes. How you doing, boo?
She's a writer on Charlamagne's show, The God's Honest Truth on Comedy Central as well. Playing it low key. But yeah, Rita doing big things.
And you open for me and Caroline. Yes. Hi.
Hey, Yvonne, I'm Rita Brent. I just wrote for the Emmys for Cedric the Entertainer. But anyway, I have a question about imposter syndrome.
You moved from you were in Alabama somewhere. Same thing. Yeah.
Hang on. I'm from Alabama now. Hang on.
God bless all y'all. Glad you made it, girl. I know, because I remember because you were down there and I was like, hey girl, I got a spot at Caroline's. I think you're funny. Would you like to come up? And I was like, but you got to leave Alabama, Mississippi. And you did. And look at you now. Shut up. So imposter syndrome, in my case, I had hear my voice syndrome. And I explained. So as the youngest of four, only girl in a very like male-dominated like cultural household, I fought for so long, and also being bullied. I fought for so long for people to like hear my voice. And it was like, y'all gonna hear me. And it was just like, and then God gave me a mic. And I was like, oh, dang, hello, I don't have to yell. But when I got successful, I still didn't know what it was like for people to take my voice and like actually like adhere, like honor it. So Niecy Nash, I was talking to her about how frustrated I was. I was like, I just feel like I got agents, I got like all these people that I'm paying, and it feels like no one's listening to me. And she said, hold on, baby, just make sure that you're not causing chaos. She's like, because it sounds like you've worked so hard for people to hear your voice, and now they're listening. And you don't have anything to say because you never got that far. You were just wanting people to hear you. And now people are like, so what you want? And then you're like, I don't know. What should I want? It's like, oh, dang, that's not how this works. And I had that for so long because my muscle, again, even flow was hard for me because my muscle was hustle and grind. You know, yelling for attention was easy for me because that's the only way my voice could be heard. And then when people were like, for listening, and it's like, resist. I know what to do when you resist. When you listen, I don't know what to do because I have nothing to say. And so that was what I had to work on. That was my like imposter syndrome of like, I think I'm supposed to have all the answers. And I'll never forget when I was in a meeting and I just was like, I actually don't know. Does anyone have any ideas? And like, that was powerful for me because it was just like, yeah, I'm also giving you an opportunity to do your job. Do you have any ideas? And I'm also letting you know, I'm not always going to have all the ideas. Because I think we get stuck into like, when we enter the room, we got to know everything. We got to be the smart. No, you just hire the smartest people and let them do their job and recognize what my strengths are. Because at the end of the day, like I'll be in a meeting. My strength is my ability to be a people person. My ability to always, my manager and I'm like, yo, you give me an idea, I'll alley-oop it and I'll make it better. Like that's my thing. I'm an alley-ooper, but I know that. And so when I sit in these meetings and I'm just like, yeah, I don't know X, Y, and Z. I know this, and this is what's gonna get us paid. So can you help me with this thing that I don't know and I kind of don't care to know because I have too much in my head anyway. So with imposter syndrome, it is like, I'll never forget when Chris invited me on tour with him and he came to Atlanta to watch the movie. Everything in me wanted to ask him, why you choose me? Because like, it's Chris Rock. I'm opening for him, Barclays and Madison Square. Like this is LA and New York. You know all the comics on both coasts. Why me? Like I'm like, and it's not like Chris had sat in the back of the comedy store watching me perform. He didn't see me. And I just was like, this is weird because you literally have your picking and you picked me. And it's not that I don't think I can do a good job. I just am confused. And I'll never forget, he met me, I thought the hotel in Atlanta. He said, you're gonna have a lot of people mad at me. You got a lot of people mad at me. I was like, I don't know how to fight. He was just like, yeah, a lot of people wanted those spots, but I think it'd be good for you. You're gonna meet a lot of great people. And again, I'm like, this exactly what I'm saying. I got people mad at me because these are all people that that you could easily pluck. And I never asked them because I say in the book, when somebody invites you into the room where it happens, just enter and sit down. Right. Just enter and sit down because it is clear that either through favor or through just sheer delight, they see something in you that either you know is in you, but you don't see it yet. Don't tell them they made a mistake. Just show up and rise to the occasion. That's
all right, Rita. Love you. We'll do one here, and you have a question as well. Okay, we'll wrap up with these
outfit. Two. I'm like, this is New York fashion. I love it.
Thank you, Yvonne.
Hi.
So first of all, thank you so much. This book has been such an inspiration for myself, who's a child of immigrant parents. I feel you. Yeah. So my question is, as a screenwriter, how do you go about pitching your idea where you want to put yourself out there, but then you're afraid of like your content might get stolen? And in your case with First Gen, it took you 5 years. Like, if you have any advice, like what's like the best route to take so that you're protected, but then again, you're still putting yourself out there?
Yeah, I mean, I think register your work. So once you register it with the WGA, like it's yours. If somebody takes it, then it's yours. You take it back. But in terms of, is it kind of like handling rejection, or like what do you do in the process of waiting? Is that kind of what?
Yeah. Yes.
Say the question how you.
So you have like a pilot or something. Say you want to pitch it, and you have that opportunity. You want to put yourself out there and send it out. But then when do you know like which entity or organizations to trust, or like if you have that opportunity to pitch, how are you protecting your content?
Yeah.
And not like, so to say, keeping yourself from that exposure.
Listen, I think you can't be so precious with your ideas, right? You can protect them, yes. Once they're protected, they're yours. But at some point, you also have to put it out there, right? You have to go, you have to get the meeting, you write a script on spec, and some people get hired because of a spec script, or it goes on the blacklist or whatnot. So it's like, it's really you putting it out there. And for me with First Gen, I mean, I had several moments of like, well, I'm good on this. I don't need to do this. And then it was like, no, this is my baby. I want to do this. And then it just became, you get rejected. So 5 years of rejection, it's like, dang, just say you don't like me. Like, what is it? And then I'll never forget when I saw, like, because my whole thing was like, I want to be the first show by a Nigerian American family. And then my good friend Gina Yashere creates Bob Hartleby show. And I was like, well, then there goes my desire, my dream. It's like, no, boo, there's still space for both of you. But But then, I'm also dealing with my taste has changed now. Like I wrote First Gen before I was number 2 on an HBO call sheet. The things I wanted to say then and the reasons for saying them now, like they've changed. And I'm like, I want to tell different stories. And so then, you have this thing, sometimes studios, networks are like, can you make the characters toddlers? And you're like, yeah, I'm sure there's a version of this where they're toddlers. Do you want them to speak in toddler? And I there was definitely a point where I'm just like, fam, like I don't want to keep hoeing my material, like just like kind of shucking and jiving for like, they can be grown. No, they can be dead. Yeah, these characters are all dead. At a certain point, I was just like, hey, this is a show. If y'all want it, cool. If not, they will make the music video without you. That's my like Destiny's Child reference.
Oh yes. Yes.
Just in case.
And sign nothing before a lawyer. Yeah. That's the other thing. It's some shady production coming. Oh, that's a great idea. We can help you sell it. Just
and anything that says in perpetuity, don't do it. Just I don't know law, but I know in perpetuity means
perpetuity. What's the other one they put in the contract? Space and the galaxy and any universe not yet discovered. Like they literally put that. Like we own your stuff in
forever and ever and ever and ever. That's what that really all that says. Forever and ever. Don't say nothing else. It's like, oh, okay. But yes, just put yourself out there. Yeah, so and own it. And like no one else knows the material. And the reality, even I love Squid Games. I don't know if any of you are screenwriters or in entertainment wanted to create. Watch the movies that made us on Netflix. It's not even for the movies that they're talking about. It's about the process to get to the movies that we now are like love and are popular. Like Forrest Gump took 10 years to make. And what humbled me is everyone who worked on it was like, yeah, the idea came from a book that didn't do really well. And I was like, what? Again, because you write things and you're like, we're all like, it has to be perfect. Forrest Gump is a movie that came from a book that was trash.
Oscar.
According to the producers. And I was just like, we over here trying to like, before I submit it, it has to be the best thing. It has to be Game of Thrones meets meets Star Wars. And it's like, really? And just trusted that like, whatever it is, there's still grace on it. I still look back at some of my first comedy like shows. I'm like, why did people pay me like this? What did they see?
That's the process, though.
In me? And sometimes all they need to do is like they have that one laugh that they remembered. It's like, do you host stuff? I'm like, weddings. I host weddings. So just Thank you.
Thank you.
I will say as a follow-up to that, while the next person coming up, somebody said, I asked them like what advice would they give to like their younger self? And she said somebody recently told her, I would tell my younger self that 70% is enough. The Nigerian in me was like, that's average. I was like, what? You just out here being C students? But she was just like, my 70 is still somebody else's 25. You know what I mean? Because I'm never really just only going to do 70. But like when you're trying to do 150, most people are only going to appreciate 70. And there are going to be times when, like, yes, you do go hard in the pain for that extra, like, go the extra mile. But, like, again, to Forrest Gump's point, it was a trash book that became an Oscar-winning movie. So give yourself grace. Sometimes 70 is enough. Other times, now, if you're already working at 50, baby, you put in another 75. Okay, but if you're accustomed to being at like 250. Ease up a little bit. It's okay.
All right, last question.
Hello. Well, can you hear me very well?
Yes.
This mask is not doing it. But my name is Ify.
Hi.
How are you? I met you a few years ago. I have
a
two-part question.
What was I doing?
Comedy.
Okay, I was like, what was I doing?
So
I was like, Mom, she's lying. Everything she said.
No, I met you at the comedy club around here.
Yeah.
But anyway, first I want to congratulate you, my sister, because you are doing it and you are paving the way for those of us Nigerian Igbo people and everyone else. Mm-hmm. I'm very excited for you.
My question is 2 parts.
Okay.
You know,
very Nigerian.
Very Nigerian. Part 1, part 2.
She's like, I'm the last one. I have 2 questions.
I have part 1 and part 2. First question is, if you could talk to yourself.
I do often.
10 years ago.
Okay.
What would you say to past you? That's part 1.
That's what, 2011?
Yeah, that's still Wendy's.
Oh, I was still hopeful. Yeah, I was still hopeful then. I didn't get broke until 2014. Yeah. I would say, I would tell because at 2011 is when I moved from here to LA to do a writer's internship. And I was still the person that like just showed up. They were like, we want you to be an intern in the writer's room. I was like, cool.
Was that the Revolt years at Revolt TV?
No, that was the Martin Lawrence's show, Love That Girl.
Okay.
Those was the Love That Girl year. And I showed up in LA and I was like, shit, I know I'm an intern. I ain't getting paid, but I'm running this. Like that, I had that energy about me. I was just like, they gonna see me. And they did. And then they hired me. So my 2011 self was intact. Now 2014, I would have to tell her some things like, go to sleep, get some food.
And then the other question is basically, for those of us actors and actresses, especially those of us in Igbo culture, how do you step yourself so that you can actually be out there? I'm a young actress myself, and I have been putting myself forward in those avenues, but I want to be seen too. So how do I get?
There's a chapter in the book called "The Way Up Is Down," and I say that because it's like sometimes the unorthodox things are sometimes the way to get to your goal. And I don't know and I don't want to blame it on this culture. And I think everyone here is grown, but there is this like Orville Redenbacher culture that just wants to pop quick and get hot fast. And for me, my first manager came from babysitting his kids. And I didn't know he was going to be my manager because at the time he was an executive at a studio and a professor from my public health days at GW. Aren't you glad I got that degree? Yeah. Turns out that was his nephew. So, and that professor went on to work at one of the Ivy League schools. He meets a Nigerian girl and he's like, hey, have you met this Nigerian girl that's a comedian? She's like, that's my cousin. She connects us and he's like, what are you doing now? I'm like, I live in LA. And he's like, you should meet Jacob. I'm like, I should. Jacob. And he's like, he's an executive Paramount. Of course he is. I should meet him. And Jacob is like, I'm real busy right now. I can't meet you. My wife just had a kid. I'm like, I love kids. I babysit. He was like, all right, well, come on my house for dinner on Tuesday. And I was like, bet. And for 2 months straight, I babysat his kids. But every Tuesday when he came home, it became an executive coaching session. And he would tell me about the industry, how to develop things like First Gen. I hadn't booked Insecure yet. And then as I'm auditioning for Insecure, he's like, I think I want to leave and do management. The day I booked Insecure was his first day at his management company. Wow. So it was just like, yeah, you can want to meet the manager or you can just be a kind human being and babysit I was like, my sperm bill needs to be paid. $20 an hour is my rate. You know what I mean? Like that was our relationship. And so I think there's so many different avenues of getting in. Sometimes it won't look sexy. It will look like I'm still an assistant, but I got all these degrees. It's like, yeah, do a good job. Trust me, people are watching. There's a camera on you, even when there's no red button. Somebody's always watching and somebody will, or it's like, you know what? I want to write this short. There's a short that's being made into a feature that I just read. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, it was literally a short. My agents just sent me this thing. It was like a creative writing thing that was featured in a magazine. It was 4 pages. And they were like, would you like to option this? I'm like, what? It's not a full story. It was just, and they were like, yeah. But I'm like, I'm in it. It's 4 pages. I'm like, well, what happens after that? They're like, well, that's all she wrote. So we don't know. but would you like an option? And I was like, people are getting work off of 4 pages. Yeah. So it's like, you have no idea what you have, but it's just enough. Like, you just have to trust and believe it's enough. And it's like, you have no idea who's looking at it, who's wanting to do something with the very thing that you're like, I think I want to write about X, Y, and Z. Because if you have something, it's like Uber. I'm sure his friends were tired of taking him to the airport. I feel like Uber was just created because somebody was tired of airport drop-offs. I don't know. I ain't read the Fast Company report on that. If I could go on a hunch, somebody was just tired, and it was like, yo, wouldn't it be dope if like we can just like have an app where like people with their own cars that like don't know anybody, just anybody can drop you off at the airport? Uber, you know. So the need that you feel like right now, I'm on a kick on like, yo, I don't see enough romantic comedies. If I go through another Friday night as a single woman with nothing to watch on all the streaming platforms that I have, somebody better hurry up because this is trash. So in my mind, I'm like, yo, I want love. I want to see love. So I'm like, I'm hungry now for love. And so you might be the one that's like, I wrote this script about this like couple, and I'm like, yes, that's it. I want to produce it. So you have no idea, but if there's a need that you feel like you can meet in any form, yeah. Right now, books are being made into movies at a rapid rate because people are tired. Like, you know what? Have time for new ideas? Why? You wrote it. Let's say yours.
Well,
I hope I answered your question.
You sure did.
Yeah. And then just like go, you're in New York. When I was in New York, I would just go to plays. I would like meet other people. Like I actually responded to this call. It was like First Generation Nigerian American Project. I was like, all things that I am. And it was very self-explanatory. But from that, I met this like really dope group of like other, and I was just like, why didn't y'all put up a Facebook group? There's more of you. My mama told me that I was the only one doing this. And it was like a whole community of first generation African women who were performers. And they are still my friends to this day. But like, I got on stage and we would like, it was like a one-woman show, but like five of us. And so we would like write our own bits and then each perform it. Now, I don't want to do plays right now, but like that got me in front of people. And so you have no idea the people in this room that could be your help. And it's just literally reaching this way rather than being like, I got to get to the person at the top. The person at the top don't got time. But the person beside you is like, I want a partner.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Well, I think that's as good a place to end it. Yvonne, thank you so much for sharing your time with us this evening. Thank you all for coming out. Thank you to the Center for Fiction for hosting this.
Yes.
The book is Bamboozled by Jesus. It is available everywhere. One more time for Yvonne Orji, everybody.
We out here.